Hello. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the last session of Karma Summit. Today we are on a workshop called to the last session of workshop. Thank you for being with us for the last 2 days. We hope you've had insightful conversations across the board with everyone. So today in this last session, we'll be talking about navigating and evolving in the new normal. This workshop is largely focused towards nonprofits. And till today, we have had a number of insightful conversations with leaders across the board about how virtual volunteering can really help nonprofits. And now we'll step onto the other side. We will start looking at things from a nonprofit's perspective and try and see how we can make it easier for nonprofits also to move into this journey from traditional volunteering to virtual volunteering. And what are the things that they need to keep in mind and how they can make the most out of virtual volunteering. So this is basically the structure of the workshop today. We will start with a short primer about what COVID means for nonprofits. Then how does volunteering help? Then we will talk about a few actionable steps about how we can take your virtual volunteering strategy off the ground. And lastly, we will end with one of our favorite nonprofits, Tech Girls. Abhishek will have a fireside chat with them. So that you can also see their experiences and learn from them about how their virtual volunteering programs have been doing. So to start off quickly, we at Goodera have also been asking ourselves a question about what does COVID mean for nonprofits. So since the time we first got news of the virus, back in February and March, till now, over 15 million people have been affected and millions more have been put out of jobs across the globe. And our economy and every single sector, FMCG, healthcare, finance, supply chains, everything has been affected disproportionately. And the nonprofit sector is actually no exception. Our societies are actually going through a massive crisis. And the nonprofit community, which serves our societies directly, has also been taken a direct hit. Just to put this in perspective, over 70% or about 70% of nonprofits have reported a reduction in the amount of contributions that they have had. And not just this, but another appalling figure is that 50% of the nonprofits in the US will be out of cash in the next 3 months. And so this kind of tells us about the scale and how unprecedented the impact has been on nonprofits, just from the fundraising side. But when we look on the other side about how their operations are carrying out, another important number here is about volunteers. Approximately 40% of the nonprofits received active help from volunteers across the globe. And this amounted to almost 8 billion hours of volunteering from various people in the US itself. And in all, what this means is that the donations that were coming in to help them run the operation smoothly have reduced. And at the same time, the pro bono services, which were helping the nonprofits conduct their operations efficiently, have also reduced. So we at Goodera, we felt that it is imperative for us to take this time out during the Karma Summit to talk how we can help nonprofits adopt virtual methods, both for fundraising and for engaging volunteers. So quick tips on virtual fundraising from Global Giving. So this is an interesting, before we jump into virtual volunteering itself, we thought we could share a few tips that from an insightful article by Global Giving. Global Giving has shared 8 tips in one of their articles talking about how virtual fundraising can happen. So what underlies this entire slide or the article is that the article also earnestly asks nonprofits to understand that everyone around us also realizes that we are all going through the same crisis and we are all a part of it. As long as we are honest, as long as you can really talk about the challenges that you're facing and how this money will be used, either to save jobs, either to help communities, either to work with various folks in the in your network. be open with that, empathize with the person on the other side, also ask for donations. We Many people, my friends, my family have donated to nonprofits more than enough during this particular time, and I'm sure your donors also will come through. It's just about asking and reaching out to them with empathy and closing uh, with care. So moving on from here, the next is we will talk about the virtual volunteering framework by Godera. Um, so before we jump into the framework itself, let's spend like 2 minutes to just understand what is virtual volunteering. So in these three crisp points, we identify what virtual volunteering can be. The first and most important one is the word virtual. That it's something that can be that you can be offline or offsite and at the same time help the nonprofit out. We have heard like many words for this, online volunteering, micro volunteering, crowdsourcing, digital volunteering. We feel that the word virtual volunteering suits best. And secondly, there is no time limit about how much time a virtual volunteering activity should take. It can span just a few minutes, 2 hours to days, and they can also be very much more long-term commitments that volunteers can work with you. And the third one is there are no limitations about it engaging one person or multiple people. Virtual volunteering opportunities and activities come in all shapes and sizes, and it can involve individuals or teams. So with the definition set there, we will jump on to the next. A quick poll. So we just want to understand, if you have virtual volunteering programs within your organization, have you pivoted to them yet? Type in your answers or use the yes and no buttons on your screen. Hope you've had the chance to answer. So moving on from here, we will jump on to the next question. Along with this trend about how we have seen that many people are out of job at the same time, but we have also seen a rising sense of purpose across the globe. Of the individuals and volunteers that we have worked with have said that 90% of the individuals said they would be willing to help in any way possible. And this is also indicated by various other numbers that we see, that there has been an 800% increase in the search for volunteering and related terms. And at the same time, in our own figures, we have seen a jump of 350% in the number of volunteers who have actively volunteered, according to the Godera platform statistics. So we see that the time is ripe. There is need from the nonprofit side who are seeing a massive crunch in resources. And at the same time, there is also a volunteer movement. More and more people are now willing to volunteer. So we feel that it is the right time for nonprofits to reimagine their volunteering programs, go virtual, really think about what is it that they want to achieve from their volunteering programs and get it done. So just to summarize the benefits of virtual volunteering, here are a few. The first one is the larger volunteer pool. Suppose if you're a nonprofit who's been based in San Francisco and you have a few activities which are happening locally, your pool has always been limited to the set of people who are working around you. But with virtual volunteering, we have seen people in San Francisco helping nonprofits in India and in Africa and across the globe. And the next one is availability. What happens with virtual volunteering is that a number of people, the time and physical barriers are removed from the jobs themselves. So the number of people who are available for it kind of opens up, even if they're not able to do it by a certain time, they can do it at their own comfort and get the job done. The third one is it's cost effective without all the logistical nightmares of organizing on-site events. Coordinating with the people, getting a book done, getting T-shirts printed. All the hassle is out. It's extremely cost effective. You can engage with them online. Tell them about your needs, and they help you out. It's as simple as that. And lastly, we have also seen that virtual volunteering helps increase the donations which are raised indirectly from the volunteers themselves, and they are almost 30% more likely to donate to the organizations if they are virtually volunteering with you. So that's the reason why we are taking up this time also to talk about and helping uh, to help nonprofits build their virtual volunteering strategies. So quickly, in the chat, it'll be great if you can answer this question. What are the biggest challenges that you have faced with respect to virtual volunteering? Sorry about that interruption. So we are seeing a number of barriers coming in that you're talking about how the commitment reduces over a period of time, and how the cost of virtual volunteer platforms could be one of the barriers also. And how can they engage directly with corporate volunteer programs at the same time? So great questions. We will try and respond to these questions during our session. Um, Moving ahead, this is something that we have noticed from a few surveys that we have done with nonprofits and with companies. The biggest challenge that we found from companies is that it's not that there are no volunteer time off policies, or that there is no intent to volunteer. The biggest challenge that they see are opportunities that they can accept, they can understand, and they can immediately start off with. So difficulty to find the opportunities is the number one case. And the second one is it's a starting trouble. It's about that we have never done this before. How do we start with it? So these are also the kind of questions that we saw nonprofits answering, saying that we haven't done virtual volunteering before, and we don't know how to do this right now. So how can we jump there? So these are some of the questions that we will try to answer using our framework that we are building today. And the point to note over here also is that there is high intent from corporates and corporate volunteers to contribute. And at the same time, nonprofits are finding it difficult to find avenues to engage volunteers. And not only this, when we were also talking to volunteers, some of the other numbers that we found are that almost 40% of the nonprofits haven't yet pivoted to virtual volunteering. And the second biggest challenge that we found companies talking about is that volunteer task portfolios are very long-term heavy. So most of these activities, which take like 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, which are also seen as very prohibitive, by the corporate volunteers and companies. And third, and probably the most important thing also from the company side, is that uh, the nonprofits haven't really figured out how to engage teams of volunteers yet. So the team building benefit or the employee engagement benefit that corporates see it, they don't find it right way to start with. So before we directly jump into the framework itself, I want to spend a few minutes or like a few minutes just talking about how to develop volunteers and how to have them start working with you. So over the last 4 years, we have been engaging with numerous volunteers. So this is one of our experiences with the volunteers in the very beginning. That more than we had launched the platform, there has been great response that everyone would want to volunteer once the platform launches. But the numbers were really appalling. After 3 months, 4 months of engagement, we have seen that a number of the number of people who have expressed interest for volunteering with the organization, only a single digit percentage of them have actually volunteered finally. So we, over the period of time, have conducted a number of experiments to learn about how engagement decreases and what are the kind of things that companies and nonprofits need to keep in mind to engage volunteers for the long term. So if you look at the graph simply on the left hand side, you see the lifetime volunteer value. It is about how much commitment a volunteer actually, how much value a volunteer provides to the nonprofit. And on the x-axis, you can see engagement. As people start working with the nonprofit, their engagement also increases. And at the same time, the lifetime volunteer value also increases. So, so to just dive deep into this, the first stage is what we call the discovery phase. And at this point, the volunteers don't really know about the kind of offerings a nonprofit provides. So, and the most common reason about why someone starts volunteering is mostly because they think it could be fun, or it's something that their HR team has organized and they would want to take part in it. And or that their team is already going there and they join along with them. So what we see at this stage is mostly passive engagement, and the kind of events they take part in are short and snappy, and something that they can really love and they can come back and do again and again. The second stage is what we call as awareness. This is where, once the fun part moves on and once they start doing the activities more and more, we see continuous engagement and volunteers are willing to commit a few hours for longer tasks. The next stage is something that we call as engagement. This is when the volunteers move to a deliberate contribution, where they can talk about a week to month long tasks. And finally, the pride stage, where they become ambassador for your nonprofit and champion and help you with fundraising. So typically, what we have seen is if 100 volunteers come in at the discovery stage, it's probably around 2 to 5% of the volunteers who move to the ambassador stage. So what is really important in this particular graph is that we need to understand volunteer engagement also as a funnel. Not everyone who starts with at the top level will actually commit and engage with you over a very long term. So it's important to have this funnel very active and to have opportunities for various volunteers to engage with you, even if they want to spend a short amount of time or if they want to spend long amounts of time for everyone. So before we jump into the framework itself, we have created something called as ROP, Rope and Volunteers. It's an end-to-end framework for engaging volunteers. It'll help you understand a few basic pitfalls, talk about the important aspects of each one of them, and help you get through your volunteering engagement process. So also, why we have started this particular process is that, or thinking about this framework, the first reason is that we think this is the right time for nonprofits to embrace virtual volunteering. And secondly, while preparing for this workshop, we were trying to come up with the right way to talk about it, right way to help it. We saw that there is not a lot of information available online. There are anecdotes available, but nothing actually tells nonprofits about what are the few actionable steps that they can take to ensure that virtual volunteering is done right. So here we have one of the most important steps. The first one is the requisites. It's mostly about designing high quality volunteering opportunities, experiences to solve problems and engage the volunteers. This is basically about understanding and getting your house in order. Follow the best practices to build a long-term volunteering strategy and learn how to measure success for it. It is something that you do for one time, and you can iterate it over a period of time, maybe over a period of 6 months or 3 months, depending upon how many activities that you have in your portfolio. The other three steps, which are ongoing, are onboarding, project management, and engagement. Onboarding mostly talks about how you uh, engage your volunteers for the first time, and this I can't stress enough has a massive impact about the delivery that you see from nonprofits. And onboarding also takes care of setting the right expectations, ensuring that the volunteers really understand what is expected from them. The third part of it is project management, which is like any other project management. And now that the volunteers are on board with you, what are some of the best practices for managing work with them? Project management focuses on how to work with volunteers, the tone you can take with them, and how to evaluate the work that is being done. How can you supervise and see the quality? And and there are also about a few useful tips, like when you're working online, you don't have someone you can reach out to directly. How can you keep time with them? How can you nudge them? And how can you gamify the entire experience so that the tasks are actually done? Um, this is something that we have thought through, and we have a few things which are already live on the Goodera platform. So these are some of the steps, like we discussed during the volunteer journey, also are things that can really be helpful while managing volunteers. And the last one is engagement. It's about engaging them for the long term. How do you get volunteers to come back to you again and engage with you for a longer period of time? How can you communicate this impact to them so that they feel connected to the organization that they are working with? So now that we have set that in place, what we will do next is jump into the requisites, which is the first part of the activity of the framework. Sorry. So the first step is again about three things. You need to, if you already have a virtual volunteering program, it's about how can you make if you have a traditional volunteering program, it's about how can you make a switch from the traditional opportunities to virtual opportunities. And if you don't have any program, how can you start today? So the answer to this is in three steps. The first one is the people. How do you modify your volunteering goals for it to be appropriate? Do you have the right tech and infrastructure in place, which could be as simple as a video conferencing tool to be able to engage volunteers in the very beginning? And who is the best person? Have you identified and have you communicated it across your organization to ensure that everyone understands why volunteers are coming in and where all they can help you out? The other thing that we have noticed and we have seen is really, really important is the role of virtual volunteering coordinators. After having worked with a number of conversations and after having curated the entire Karma Hub, we see that virtual volunteer coordinators are great people persons, and at the same time they're also able to quickly problem solve and are able to work with technology effectively. So the three takeaways from here is that number one, set the tone within the organization about how you want to talk about volunteering. And number two, what are your goals? And are your traditional volunteering goals appropriate for your virtual volunteering? And the third one is, do you have the tech and infrastructure in place, which could be as simple as video conferencing tools to engage with the volunteers in a virtual environment? So a few more pointers about finding the right goals and tasks for volunteering within your organization. The first one is there are actually multiple ways of thinking about it. We have actually worked with a number of nonprofits who take help from volunteers either to work on generic org level activities, things like marketing, fundraising, and finance, to help them build brand awareness and help with fundraising or improve organizational outcomes. The second set of activities and goals that organizations also set are specific to programs. Suppose you work in a youth mentoring education focus area with youth. So, can you engage volunteers in a meaningful way that the beneficiaries are benefiting from there and volunteers are also having a great experience? So, these are two different things, the general org specific areas, and secondly are the program specific areas where these two where volunteers can be engaged. And there are multiple ways of coming up with your goals. First and foremost, while thinking about goals, it's important to really understand that if there is a task that need to be done within your organization, and then it's important. It is imperative. It is possible that a volunteer can actually help you do it. There is nothing that if an employee can do it, a volunteer can do it. Maybe you can find someone to think about it. So it's important to keep all inhibitions away while really defining your volunteer goals. A few of the things that you can think about into each one of these areas is directly, can you talk about the goals themselves, or can you talk about uh, a second one of them, for example, departments possible, where do you need most help in marketing or in fundraising or with finance or with your programs directly? And thirdly, whom do you want to engage? Do you want to engage young professionals? Do you want to engage people who are accountants? And the third one is, what are the size of activities in terms of length of time commitment that you'd want to provide to your volunteers? So you can keep this in mind. So we have actually done some of this work for you. So we have gone through all the activities that we have received on our Karma Hub, and we have also scoured the internet for various websites of various nonprofits talking about their volunteering activities. So we have tried to condense it into a few insights that you can directly take with you. The first one is, so here are some examples of such goals. The first one here is improving brand awareness. So this could be something related to your marketing activities. So do you need help with building your website or keeping it updated? Do you want to run a new survey on your website? Do you need help with writing blog posts, or do you need help with your Google Analytics strategy or social media strategy? So each one of these steps, if you can write it down, it'll help you towards improving your brand awareness. And it's very possible to find volunteers who are willing to engage with you. And there are various other steps. So for example, engaging donors. So we have seen one nonprofit engage various volunteers in helping write thank you notes for their donors. So it's something that volunteers were also really interested in, and it got them a lot of goodwill and a sense of accomplishment once they did that. And we have seen some companies, say in the Silicon Valley, directly work with nonprofits to help them build better products, be it a small app, something that takes a longer time commitment. And one other thing that I really want to highlight is also about accelerating programs through crowdsourcing. Is there any activity that within your organization that you need to help with? For example, are there a number of texts that need to be translated to make them accessible to people who can't communicate directly in English? So those are great ways to also engage volunteers because these activities kind of also are infinitely available, and it's easy for volunteers to just come and perform the activity and move on. So various ways you could have a lot more goals apart from this also. It's great for we request you to like kind of spend time thinking for it. At the end of the session, we'll also share a tool with you, which you can use to think through various activities and kind of write down directly for yourself. So we move on to the next step here. One other important activity over here is to really understand task design, and this also kind of goes hand in hand uh, with what we have defined in the volunteer journey. So most of the volunteers are get introduced to volunteering with micro activities. Either they would be doing it individually or along with their team, with which requires commitment of a minute to hours. And at the same time, from our estimates, there are millions of volunteers available for you if you have the right micro activity available. And these activities could be as simple as editing a press release or posting on social media, or reciting a story for kids and recording that, or any kind of crowdsourced events. And then there are shorter and long-term events which could require varying lengths of time, and they could help help your nonprofit in various ways. Moving ahead from task design, I think we'll spend a little more time about just understanding what these tasks look like. So the first one are micro volunteering activities. How do we think about it internally as that micro volunteering opportunities maximize delight? So the right activities always have a certain level of human intelligence that is required to drive them. Secondly, they have a level of human empathy. It's something that they can directly connect with the mission of the organization and are able to understand how the activity that they are doing can lead to the organization achieve, or the individual on the other side achieve their own personal goals. They require low effort, should be able to finish within a few minutes to an hour, and should either have like little to no learning curve at all. And the last two are that which are also like very specific. If there are no specific skills, it's easier to get more volunteers in. And if they are infinitely available, it's something that can be scalable across the board, and you can engage as many volunteers as possible. The second type of activities or tasks are short activities, activities that take a minimum of like a few hours and a maximum of 1 to 2 days to finish. So this is where the maximum number of people also drop off. People who start doing virtual volunteering or volunteering with you with a micro activity, around 20% of them to 30% of them move on to conducting larger activities. So what is different from these things, these activities, is that they have a clearly demonstrated impact. They have a connection to the organization's overall goals. Empathy is also available over here. If possible, there is a connection with the leaders of the organization, and it also provides a sense of belonging as volunteers engage with them. And this provides, it helps to communicate with the volunteers multiple times, help them understand why we are doing what we are doing, and really engage with them in a meaningful way. The last ones are long-term activities. Long-term activities, opportunities that build pride in the volunteer for doing it. Usually people who take up long-term activities, which take weeks to months to complete, are the ones who have gone through multiple micro activities and short-term activities. So these require certain amount of time and effort for volunteers to do. They have a clear and direct connection with the mission of the organization, and it helps the volunteer also build skills within themselves. And it also provides a sense of long-term association with the volunteer. Moving on from task design. So just to quickly summarize, when can you say that your task design is completed, or you have a clearly defined task portfolio? The first one to think about is that, do you have a clear problem statement that you'd want to pose to a volunteer who is coming to work with you? The second one is, what is the expected time commitment you have from the volunteer? The third one is, what is the process? that you would want this activity to be done. How would you like to communicate? Is it on the phone? Do you want to use WhatsApp, or is email, or do you have a Slack channel where you'd want to post these things? So all these things, detail them out. The fourth aspect is internal feedback from various stakeholders. If your activities are largely in the marketing department, how does what is the feedback from the director of marketing while doing these things? Have you worked with them together to develop these activities? Or is there another burning need? Can the head of fundraising or the CEO provide more feedback about these activities? And the fifth one, which is also important, is about what is the impact that this task will create if it is done right. For example, if a blog post has been posted on your website, how many people do you expect to engage with them? To how many people will the story be communicated? And the last one is about when do you deem this activity as complete, and what are the various modalities associated with it? So this is the short checklist about what you require to start working on volunteers. So there are a number of tools. Here are some things that we have seen work for our nonprofits. Some of them are micro volunteering activities. The only thing that you need are video conferencing tools. Could be Teams, Skype, Zoom, Hangouts, anything that you're comfortable with. As you start moving into short-term activities, you also need a way to communicate. It could be Slack, WhatsApp, Messenger, any way in which you can keep each other communicated about the progress that the volunteers are doing and what are the next steps. And the last one, as you move towards long-term activities which take time, it's very important to define various milestones for your activities and what needs to be done next. And if there are any blockers for the volunteers to complete their activities, how can you resolve them, and how can all of this be documented and available for you once the tasks are completed? Also, this is something that we have observed as being a challenge for a number of nonprofits. So we are also launching a tool to help nonprofits directly engage with us and list volunteering opportunities. So I'll share the links with you. You can join the waitlist for this offering. So here's another insight that we have seen. The team-based activities see almost 10 times as much engagement. And there is the word stays with the nonprofits as much more because they associate your nonprofit directly with fun or with impact. And the next time when they have to donate or provide a testimonial, it's something that they could recommend. So just at a numbers level, we've seen almost 400% volunteers being engaged through team activities. And especially if they are crowdsourcing activities, it helps get much larger outcomes. And you have more testimonials and more goodwill that you have gathered from various sources. So here is our team smiling happily after doing a virtual volunteering activity. So a couple of examples just on the requisites. So this is, so we had worked extensively with a nonprofit called Samarthanam in Bangalore. They had created a task called recording an audiobook. So they work largely with people with disabilities and people who are visually challenged. So it's a challenge for them to get access to books that we have access to. So their activity is that they engage a number of volunteers in short-term activities. And at this stage, what they have done is whenever a volunteer signs up with them, they send them a simple email saying, this is the book that we want you to read out loud. And here is a software that you can use to record yourself while doing it. And we have seen an outpouring of warmth that we have received from volunteers from this, because this is kind of also a perfect micro volunteering opportunity. It maximizes delight in ways that we can't imagine. It requires human intelligence, all the parameters that we are talking about. It directly connects the volunteer to the end beneficiary's results. It takes low effort, takes around an hour to complete, and very, very, very small learning curve. You just have to start recording on your phone app and you can send it away. And it's also infinitely available, because here we are talking about accessibility and we are talking about people with disabilities. all the books in the world are not enough. We could be translating them, and it's definitely useful for everyone. There's a video that we have planned, but maybe we will share it with you once this is done. So as they start working with us, we also help nonprofits, work with us in helping them design volunteers as possible. So we will share this with you in some time. So this is a second example, providing career advice. Um, this nonprofit engages directly with various youth or young adults who are jumping into their activities, into their jobs. So they connect them with professionals in their area of choice, and they have a 30-minute conversation about what they can do to maximize job prospects and growth within the organization. So at this time, we also want to launch or talk to you about launching the Karma Hub for nonprofits. You must have seen the video playing. At the same time, we also have offerings that we are creating specifically for nonprofits to help you list with us to idea, and launching on Karma Hub is easy for nonprofits. It will help us expand our already largest virtual volunteering database. And as you enlist with us and join on the waitlist, we will start working with you to help you ideate and really think through all the goals that you have for your organization, and about what are these tasks that you need to transform into experiences. And we will provide you access to hundreds of tasks curated and searchable in a way that we have gotten from nonprofits across the globe, to see if there is something that you can directly templatize and start using. Once you start listing with Codera on the Karma Hub, you also have access to a pool of corporate volunteers in the millions who are on the other side, are looking at your activities and are willing to contribute right away. And at the same time, with analytics and with data from the platform, you'll also be able to gather insights that will help you spark innovation. So we'll share a link with you. Do join the waitlist. We are really excited about offering Karma Hub for the nonprofits. So the second one is also something that which is coming very soon, is the Karma community, a place where we would want all the nonprofits to start working with Codera to really share what you're thinking about, what are your needs, goals, and how we can help you get there. And also forum for all the nonprofits who are really engaged in virtual volunteering and volunteering to come together and discuss their challenges and to learn, grow, and lead in these times. So we have put together a quick tool for you in this workshop. You can actually open this link called volunteerideas.codera.com. I'll quickly show you how this tool works. It's something that to help you ideate. Quickly open your browser, type in volunteerideas.codera.com. And you land directly onto a quiz right here. And when you start, we just ask you to answer a few questions. What are the kind of goals that you'd want to achieve? You can say that, okay, let me look at a few organization-specific goals. Choose organization-specific goals. Then you get to choose, few more activities. Say, for example, I'd want to improve my brand awareness. So now again, there are like a various activities where you could engage volunteers in. So let's say I'd want to engage them with vlogs or creating content. Just add in details. And quickly you have access to a number of these opportunities. So with every single direction that you take, every single choice that you make in this quiz, we have multiple opportunities listed for you. And to retake this, just refresh the page, start again, choose different goals, improve data quality, and program management. And here you have a few more opportunities listed. So we have sieved through literally thousands of opportunities that we could find with our existing nonprofits and through various websites across the various nonprofit websites across the globe to bring you these clean lists. Once you start working with us, once you have these ideas, you can build on top of that to see that, to see how you can list with Codera or to bring these opportunities onto your website to engage your volunteers better. So do try this tool out. It will be available for you to access at any point in time. You can, and the tool is also completely free. You can keep answering this quiz multiple times to get different results for each one of them. And we will also keep adding more and more activities to it so that it becomes richer. So that's it for the session today. Hope it was useful for all of you. Thank you for joining in. We're sure that it's been a long day for all of you. Abhishek, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Kaushik, for the great session. Very helpful and also very practical, especially during these times when a lot of nonprofits are struggling with a lot of different issues. So something which is tried and tested and can be a playbook for directly implementing is very, very useful. So thanks Kaushik, and I'm very happy to have Alicia join us from Tech Girls. Tech Girls, we are very proud to be associated with Tech Girls at Codera from a volunteering perspective, and we are very inspired by their journey, and we thought it would be great to have learnings and inputs from Alicia. So thank you, Alicia, for joining us at the Karma Summit.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Alicia, I first wanted to start with Tech Girls' transition in the post-COVID world, and your mission is so inspirational, and fixing gender disparity in the tech space, and a lot of interesting initiatives like the summer camps and the tech shops. But what have you seen are the changes happened because of the pandemic? And how have you navigated through the changes? Would love to get some insights which would be helpful to thousands of nonprofits joining us today.
Definitely, yeah, thank you. Just to start off, to give a more brief overview of Tech Girls, we are a nonprofit program of Creating IT Futures, which is a 501c3 nonprofit of CompTIA. Mm-hmm. And our main focus is inspiring middle school girls to explore the possibilities of technology to hopefully empower their future careers. As some of you may know or not be aware, women take up less than 25% of the tech workforce. And seeing that as a big issue, we really wanted to start young. And our main age focus is middle school girls, so grades 5 through 8, that 10 to 13 age is so important to get them involved and interested now, because the data that we have followed have shown that if you've waited until 9th grade to try to reach the girls, it's too late. So we're really trying to grab them at that time. And we do this through free hands-on tech workshops that are in varying topics. We really push that technology is more than coding. And really nowadays, any career out there is touched by some sort of technology. So why not start at a younger age, really getting to explore all of those avenues to see where their interests lie and where their passions are. So, before the pandemic, Tech Girls was fully in person. Our workshops were within the communities across the nation and were with tech professionals or volunteers interested in getting involved with girls right in their local spaces. So when COVID struck, it definitely took us back a moment to realize, how are we going to reach these girls in these areas that we've had these in-person workshops for so long? And we needed to think quick, and luckily we did. And within the 2nd or 3rd week of March, we decided to take that pivot to virtual workshops. And, being a tech nonprofit, of course, that sounds like an easy transition for us, but it still had challenges, is, making sure that our volunteers were comfortable leading these workshops, now virtual. being comfortable with the tech that they were going to present the workshops on, as well as the video conferencing tools that they were going to run the workshops on, as well as the thought of, are the girls going to be able to join from home with the technology they have in the household? And, you know, luckily it worked out really well. And of course, there's some challenges that we'll touch on. The need is there. So if you're nervous about making that switch virtual and having these virtual volunteer opportunities, there's a way to figure it out and to have these opportunities for the volunteers and for your beneficiaries. What we've heard from the girls is they're excited that something is still there for them to be a part of, feel a part of. And that's our goal, is we want these girls to feel a part of a community. It might not be as local as it used to be, but now it's nationwide, and they're getting to see girls that share their passion all over the United States and beyond. And that's really exciting to see.
Great. So in a way, the transition was forced. It was more of like a response to a crisis, but eventually it has become like a virtue out of a necessity, because, you know, the girls get so much more exposure now, you know, with so many different perspectives from multiple different geographies. Just more on that point, you know, one is from the volunteer side, but also one is from the community side. So, you know, a lot of the engagement with the community is in person or physical. And how do you make that happen in the virtual world? And especially the end beneficiaries in this case are you know, middle school girls or you know, age groups which need a lot of hand holding. So how has it been for the end beneficiaries and your engagement with the community with the virtual environment?
Right. Yeah, good question. So we've really had to take a look at our program too. Our workshops were built to be 3 hours and, you know, hands-on and interactive, and we still needed to keep that focus virtual too. So although we scaled down our lessons to 2.5 hours, because sitting in front of a computer for middle school girls for 3 hours is a bit long. And also the time commitment for our volunteers as well. We wanted to make sure we could allow the opportunities to fit into their schedule. With everyone working from home now, there's that added stress there. So we wanted to make it, you know, beneficial to them as well. So we really focused on not just getting the content to the girls, but also making sure that the focus was still impactful, engaging, and human. During this virtual world we're living in right now, the human aspect is missing so often. So being able to use conferencing tools like Zoom, or if a company is using Microsoft Teams, keep that human aspect. Allow the girls, if they're comfortable, to turn on their videos, use their voice to share their ideas, and ask questions. That is so important. And being able to do that with our volunteers' help and with the girls that are joining us has kept that community feel in there. They're able to see the face and hear from industry professionals and you know, other individual volunteers that have a strong tie to the mission. They're able to hear from them and see them, and is what's really impactful for the girls to still feel connected. And a lot of our girls that are coming to our workshops frequently, they're noticing some other girls that they've seen at other workshops. They don't live near them, but they're like, hey, you were just at the last workshop. I'm so excited you're here. And they're building that community through that.
Interesting. So one side is on the volunteer side, it has become, you know, from local to more national, and also on the, you know, the beneficiary side, or maybe, you know, the girl side, the community has also, you know, broadened up from being local to national. So I think that's great. So again, you know, similar pieces like a virtue out of a necessity, but you brought about a very critical point on the human element of, you know, technology, because, you know, every one of us who, you know, have been forced to work from home to an extent, have seen, you know, so many second order effects of staying at home and working remotely. And it's very critical to ensure that the human connection in volunteering is there, because if you lose that, then on both sides engagement, motivation gets lower. So it's critical to have the video, the audio, the conversations, the dialogue. So yeah, it's great that you could transition in such a short time to this world. So
yes. And that's something we learned along the way as well. We were trying to think of other ways to have offerings for the girls when we first made this transition. And we had thought of this idea, maybe using some pre-recorded workshops and then running them live would be an option. So for other nonprofits, not being afraid to test things, we tested that, and it was not a great way to bring these offerings to the girls. They want that interaction. They're asking questions, telling you to slow down, not realizing it's a pre-recorded video. So trying different things is important during this time, but also knowing it's okay to fail and then, change your focus.
Got it. So a lot of iterations and refinement till you come to, what exactly works. And I think it's important to get feedback constantly from both the volunteers and the end beneficiaries on what is working.
Yeah, and at the end of each workshop, our attendees fill out a survey to know how they think the workshop went, what they enjoyed most, what they wanted to see more. And that survey is so insightful because it's directly from the girls. That's who you want to hear from, how they did it. So we often share that on request to our volunteers, because not only does it shows them how the workshop went and also how the girls felt about it and the and that also continues to keep that engagement with the volunteers wanting to do more and give more, is seeing what they're getting from it directly.
Got it. And in this process of iteration and refinement, what were the key learnings? And if you were to advise, other nonprofits who are going through this transition, what would be like the 3 learnings that you'd want to share with them?
Yeah, so one thing is that people are still willing to volunteer and want an outlet to give back. So finding all different opportunities to offer. So at Tech Girls, we look for volunteer instructors to lead our free curriculum that we have open source. We also offer teaching assistants to support the instructor. So that's a little lower of a commitment of a role. You're not, leading in charge of the full session, but also looking for other ways to get involved. Help with curriculum, so you don't really have to help during the workshops. Help with outreach. I'd think of the simplest things that can still be very impactful to your organization. Even having our volunteers be voices for us, share social media messages about Tech Girls. That is the easiest way that someone could volunteer, is just helping get the word out. So that is a learning for us, is making sure you have all of these various opportunities for anyone willing to be involved. But also remembering that not everything translates to virtual. So as I said, trying things out and realizing this isn't the best fit with what we're trying to do, and taking a step back. And also realizing that you can't do everything. Of the tech topics that we would love to still be able to offer the girls virtually, if we don't have the finances to be able to ship certain hardwares out, robotics for the girls, that is something we cannot do, but we're looking to do. So trying to find those right partners or sponsors to potentially help grow that virtually, because it's not going away. We're going to be virtual for quite some time, and even after, it's going to be beneficial for us to keep some sort of virtual learning for our girls, to engage those that are in areas we didn't have in person, and as well as engage volunteers that don't have a commitment to go out into the community. And something else is definitely to understand that the volunteers may not right off the bat have this understanding of the virtual conferencing tools. So making sure you spend time running through these with the group or with an individual volunteer looking to get involved. So definitely having some demoing with them.
Got it. So the three things you mentioned were that the first thing is that there is a lot of volunteer interest. So it's about how can you, attract and channelize it. So that's the first part. The second piece, which is very important, what you mentioned is don't try and translate the exact physical to virtual. So don't try and digitize volunteering, what you already had, but figure out where virtual volunteering can help you. So think first principles rather than just converting the existing physical to virtual. And the third piece is the processes and the infrastructure to make virtual happen seamlessly. Which as you mentioned, the demos, the tools, giving more information and communication out so that on both sides, it's easier to navigate this transition. Great, great,
Right.
great. If for an organization, if they are to take the first three steps towards virtual volunteering, what would be the first three steps? Because a lot of the nonprofits, especially in the US, volunteering was a big part of their operations and support, and fundraising is a challenge. So obviously they can't hire people, and the volunteers are also less. So they have to go into the virtual volunteering journey. But what would be the steps, and what should they do step 1, 2, and 3, so that they could do almost like a soft landing on virtual volunteering and then scale it?
Yeah, so for us specifically, engaging with Goodera has been great for us because it's allowed visibility for our organization. So definitely getting involved with Goodera and other avenues online to bring your visibility up, and having those different opportunities listed in ways to get involved. As our tech shops are the backbone of our mission, volunteers are the heart. And it is important to make sure that they know that and have that understanding, and have opportunities to get involved that fit their needs. So also to think about transitioning virtually is what's your focus and goals? What do you want to achieve? For us, it's still giving these opportunities to the girls and making sure that they have something to still connect to and to grow from with their tech interests. And that's something that we've been seeing as a big thank you from parents and from the girls directly is they're missing seeing their friends, they're missing going to school, and having these opportunities have allowed them to feel connected and do something besides just sit at home and watch TV and all. They're still able to learn and grow with others that have their same interests.
Great. I think the need for connection is probably so much more today, and I think just meeting people who want to help you and having that sense of positivity and hope is a very mutually uplifting feeling. You also mentioned about your association with Goodera, and would love to get your thoughts and feedback on how it has been, and what's your inputs and thinking around that.
Definitely, yeah. So far, Tech Girls has connected with Goodera actually as a connection between us and Amazon employees. At first, I think the original focus was going to be AWS, but it's actually been broader scale since then. So Goodera gathered volunteer information and opportunities from Tech Girls, and within their portals that they have with companies, they are able to again allow us to have visibility on what we're trying to achieve and the roles that we're looking to fill. And from them, it's kind of like taken off. So not only as in general has our volunteer community grown, just because other companies and individuals and even teen volunteers are on a huge rise. So not forgetting about different groups as well. Our teen volunteers are huge, impactful mentors, but companies are great too, and very important for us. So Goodera put out this information to Amazon employees, and they responded back with their interests, and they've connected us with individuals that want to help at workshops we already have set up, but also have that interest in running a company-led workshop, which I think is so important and interesting for the girls to learn from professionals in a field that they can relate to and be excited about. So definitely promoting these opportunities with a company that maybe we've had few connections with, but such a larger scope. So Godera has definitely helped bring a wider visibility through Amazon for us.
Great, thanks for the kind words as well. And lastly, sorry to put you in a spot, but would love to hear from you. What are the 3 words that come to your mind when you think about volunteering?
Definitely. So number 1 would be rewarding. Oftentimes when we have that urge and want to volunteer, but maybe we're afraid to take that step, or we don't feel like we have enough to offer in the space we're wanting to volunteer. Without a doubt, if you jump in and just do it, just the first time you'll do it, you'll feel how rewarding it is. Seeing the impact you're making directly. For tech girls, hearing from the girls saying, wow, I want to be a web designer when I get older because of the experiences you're showing them. So definitely rewarding. Another is impactful. It doesn't matter what you do for an organization. Like I said, if it's leading a workshop for tech girls, or if it's sharing our social media information and the posts that we're sharing, that is so impactful to give us more visibility and also to just share your connection with them. And the next is appreciation. Don't forget, as a nonprofit, to show appreciation to your volunteers, whether it's shout outs on social media, shout outs in a Slack channel, doing meetups, which now will be virtual, doing appreciation meetups to show them that you care.
Great. These are like gems of words. So thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing the Tech Girl story and your transition to virtual volunteering and learnings around that. Super helpful for all the nonprofits joining us from across the world. And thank you for being a partner to Godera. Truly appreciate and value our relationship.
Yes, I do as well, and we look forward to growing that relationship even more.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you.
Thank you.